r/AskReddit by Redmond Dietes. Poor people who have dated rich people. What did you learn? Dated a man who didn't work, lived off of a trust fund. Oddly, since he could afford nearly anything, nothing had any value. He'd buy a $400 KitchenAid mixer and burn it up making Christmas candy the first week. If he decided to make more candy, he'd just go buy another $400 mixer. Nothing meant particularly anything to him. I learned just how productive having money can be. Something needs to be fixed or replaced. We can afford to. Want to do something fun or adventurous? Sure, let's do it now. Want to eat healthier? We can afford all the ingredients. Like, what do you mean your life isn't slowed down by a million different things that need fixing or upgrading or replacing or saved for? How much easier it is to make money when you already have money. How real the network or bubble of it is. It's like the other side from the "it's expensive being poor" concept. It's this weird internal community of people with money, and thus power, who are willing to make things happen as long as you're in. I mean, I would meet people at a fundraiser or something and 5 minutes later, they're happy to make a call that will get me a job at some huge firm. Or like, my then boyfriend would say, "Let's go this concert. Tickets are $180 but it's okay, but a friend's parents have a box, so we'll just join them." Or even one time the dishwasher in our flat broke, but we didn't have to pay a dime for repairs, because his friend from high school's parents owned the building, so they're fixing it for free as a favor. My ex was having problems with roommates at university. Her parents bought a $300,000 condo for her to stay at while she finished her degree, 2 years. They sold it for a profit immediately after. I can't imagine not only being able to solve my problems with money, let alone make more off of them. She also assumed her family was lower middle class because she didn't live in a mansion like her friends. She was very humble and was smart with her money, but it was very clear she could just call her parents if something didn't work out. Meanwhile, my parents were struggling to pay rent, meaning I was their fallback, not the other way around. My wife's family has no concept of what a workday is. They don't really have a concept of how rich they are. My ex-boyfriend was wealthy, but had a complex about how he was super poor. It was because all of his friends were also so wealthy, and he was maybe marginally less rich than some of them. He considered himself on the lower end of the scale. They don't really have a point of reference for how poor some people are. When we were together, I was living on a food budget of £50 a month, and he absolutely could not wrap his head around how a person could spend that little. I lived with a horrendously rich friend. His family are aristocracy in his home country. One thing I've noticed about him is that he's completely incapable of grasping that if I stop working, I just stop being able to eat. He was confused about why I was worried about taking a week off work, and didn't understand I was worried I'd lose money. He seemed to think that most people work because they choose to, because he's never had to work. In my experience, upper middle and lower upper class folks complain the most about how little money they have. It's weird. If someone is in a position where all of their friends make more money than them, even if they themselves are in the top 10% or higher, it doesn't matter. They'll still think of themselves as poor. It's honestly kind of annoying. Grew up poor, now middle class, and at 18 dated a super rich guy. First thing I noticed was the food. Not just quantities, but I also discovered so much food, like oyster, fresh fish, olives. Things my parents could never buy. I also had to learn etiquette. My parents brought me up well. I read books all the time, was a decent student and well-behaved kid. But the way his family interacted was so different. I had to learn a lot of unwritten rules that I wasn't aware of. I think in the end what I actually learned was that even though my childhood was rough, the amount of stress of not having enough money has probably impacted me for life. I valued my parents so much more. Once I had seen what life was like for rich people, I was just so proud of my family for making it work with so much less. The difference between having money and having wealth. You grew up poor and worked hard and finally got $10,000 in the bank and your income keeps you afloat. Cool. But that is nothing compared to a 50-acre family farm with a couple houses on it, several generations of inheritance that will fall in your lap someday. Family business or family connections to lucrative opportunities. Savings, investments, cash hidden in safes, piles of gold jewelry. If they suddenly lost all their checking and savings accounts, they'd still be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and wouldn't have to worry even for a second where their next meal would come from. Edit. Also, owning cars you don't even need or ever drive. Hordes of stuff sitting around cause you never had to move or sell stuff to buy food. Lines of credit being thrown at you. I dated two dudes with trust funds. I learned no amount of money can make you forget your mommy or daddy issues. Both of the exceptionally rich men I dated were so out of touch with reality. The detail that sticks out is that one of them just didn't know how to talk about anything else. I'd ask him about movies or books or music, and he had no opinions. And I could tell it made him uncomfortable not to have the upper hand in the conversation. I think he thought I was a pretty simple country girl, and was surprised that I had thoughts and opinions. So he'd fall back on asking me variations of if money wasn't an issue, what would you? Just for him to say, well, I could make that happen for you, when I answered. Got old real fast. Did not take the rejection well at the end of the night. Huge fat baby man. He didn't have any concept of saving money, it was always just there because his money was always earning money. Having money was an income stream of itself. Also he had no concept of how much anything cost. Was going to get some groceries for dinner and he gave me $300 to pick up some basics. Spent first 8 years of my adult life with a woman whose parents had money. She had no conception of how hard life could be if you couldn't just sell stocks to buy a new car, or have someone give you a couple thousand to put you up in a new place. She pocketed her paycheck every 2 weeks. When we went out, I paid for gas. I bought dinner. Didn't think much about it at the time because we were engaged. When we broke up, she had 30 grand in her savings account and I was broke. Growing up with money is like hitting every green light and not having to worry about traffic jams. And it really fricks with your ability to empathize with people. Well, I wasn't that poor, and she wasn't that rich, but it was enough of a difference that I was shocked at how often she just took planes. Like, she flew more in a summer than I had my whole life. That and apparently they go to Hawaii for a week every year, which was fun the time I got to tag along. But it's pretty wild to me that they can just do that. Even if I could afford it, I don't have enough vacation time to do that every year. Rich doesn't cure alcoholism. I only went on one date with him. He booked out the entire bowling alley so we'd have privacy for our date. It just seemed so shockingly wasteful to me, and it was bizarre to have a 20-lane bowling alley just to the two of us plus a fair-sized staff who were left with nothing to do but look after us. I learned I'm very uncomfortable with that level of casual assumption that the world will rearrange itself to suit my whims. Also he had absolutely no respect for personal space. I don't think he was used to women not liking to be touched by folks they barely knew. Quality really does make a difference in everything from clothing to ingredients. I learned a few things. A lot of rich people are deeply unhappy. They lack drive, because they don't need to do something. Many of them can just sort of laze around. They fall into very unhealthy habits, trying to fill a hole that money can't fill. They lack a lot of basic skills. How to unclog a drain. How to hang a painting. How to change a filter. They'll spend $100 to get a handyman to spend 2 hours doing something they could fix themselves in 30 minutes and a $15 trip to the Home Depot. They are often fiercely competitive and super insecure about their wealth. I went through most of my life without ever talking about money. Why talk about something you don't have? But at a rich person dinner it's a constant dong measuring contest of, I made X amount on this investment. Or, I put so much here and expect so much back. Money really does make life easier. Like if you're a happy person with goals and a healthy attitude towards life, you can just buy the things you need to pursue your passions. There exists a higher end product for almost everything, and it's often significantly better. It might sound stupid, But a $200 toaster or $150 kettle actually does improve your breakfast. A $700 vacuum cleans in ways you never thought possible. You don't think it will, but it will. If you have a lot of money, people give you so much free stuff all the time trying to earn your business or procure donations. Ironic that the people who can best afford to pay for the items get camped the most. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.